So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a very, very warm welcome to the third and final night of Parallel Voices 2010. My name's Andrew Cannon, and I will be moderating tonight's talk. We have a fantastically talented panel of who I'll tell you more about in just a minute. But first, I think it's maybe a good opportunity to thank the artists and performers, speakers who have made up these three-day events. And I think a good place to start with that is to thank, firstly, Fennesz and Alexandra Gilbert, who put in an amazing, captivating, energetic physical performance just before the interval. So maybe we should just confirm that again. This is the dancer. You might not recognise her. Further thanks, of course, go to Carsten and Nicolai, who is stepping in as role of curator for this event. And I think congratulations need to be given to bringing a whole group of disparate people together during these 3 days. And I think the theme of this event is missing a link. And I think there was a lot of people in the last days. I know that the Throbbing Gristle crew got to meet Blixa Bargeld from the Bad Seeds after many, many years again, and there's been a sort of reconnecting during this event, so I think the theme of the missing link sort of supports that. So thank you, Carsten, for bringing these people together. And last but not least, of course, Siobhan Davis, who founded this centre that we are sitting in tonight, and organised this event together with Carsten, and this is something that happens every year, a different curator each year, and also a very hard-working, very organised team who are scattered around the room, who made it all run like clockwork. And I think maybe Siobhan wants at the end to thank further people. I think the patrons of the centre, the board of trustees, and also the Wire magazine, who have been the media partner for this event. So many thanks to all those people. So I'm delighted to be joined tonight by our guests. Starting, I think, probably from this end, Siobhan Davis, who's a founder of this dance centre. I think over the past four decades, she's been an award-winning leading figure in dance. I think she first danced her first lesson in 1967, and went on to create her first piece in 1972, and founded the influential dance company Second Stride in 1982. Bounding on in 2000, she was named one of 6 creative Britons, and started using dance as a way to exhibit dance within a visual arts setting. So this started to shift. And then after, I understand, 10 years of preparation, this centre opened in 2006 and has been a sort of hub and home for cross-discipline activities where dance has been a language where other forms of expression can come in and be expressed. Carsten Nicolai, the curator of this event, was born in former East Germany, and is a multidisciplinary artist, known mostly for his work with the visualization of sound, and very ambitious and highly sensitized installation work, also addressing this notion of visualization of sound. His work has been shown at the Guggenheim Museum in New York, the Centre of Pompidou in Paris, the Tate Modern here in London, amongst many others. He's also co-founder of a Rasta Noton organisation, which, rather than a record label, is a sort of what Carsten has termed an archive for sound and no sound. So rather than a conventional label, it's an imprint for things to happen sonically. He's collaborated with many people, including Richie Sakamoto, Michael Nyman, Ryoshi Aikida, and Blixa Bargeld. Fennesz, next to me, is an Austrian performer that has given the guitar, which you saw earlier in the performance, new life in his approach to creating an instrument that creates electronic compositions. He stretches musical resources to create atmospheres that fuse classical concepts with digital structures. He's collaborated with a wide range of musicians, such as Jim O'Rourke, David Sylvian, Ryuichi Sakamoto, Sparkle Horse, and Mike Patton. The performance you just saw gives a fine example of his ongoing insight into dance together with Alexandra Gilbert. Alexandra graduated from the National Centre of Contemporary Dance in France in 1996, and she's been involved with the projects of Sergi Ricci, I think I pronounced that probably totally wrong, for the past 10 years. And in 2004, she joined the Sidi Larbi
Cherkaoui.
My French is very bad. Company where she met her fellow dancer, Damien Jallet, who she's collaborated and developed an intense partnership with. She's danced in pieces such as Free Spells, and also you may have seen her perform in a music video for The Editors on the track You Don't Know Love, of which we might talk about later. And in parallel, she creates costumes for dance and theatre productions. Since the opening of the event, which was opened by Ryoji Aikida with his fantastic performance Monitor, and Blixa Bargeld, who collaborated last night with Carsten with a live performance, and with Chris and Cozy, who were speakers last night, moderated by Ben Borthwick. This event has tried to understand how people from different disciplines fuse together to create one force, whether that be dance, art, music, etc. And the theme that Carsten brought to this event is the missing link. And I think I would like to probably give a background to this idea. When I was asked to moderate this talk, I looked at the idea of the missing link. And from Carsten's point of view, I think I understand it as being a reference to sort of biological structures or frameworks in terms of an evolutionary pattern, how we've evolved through time. And so if you imagine a link not as such as a chain, but more as a ladder where you cannot get from one rung to another, but you need a step to get from one place to another. And I think Carsten's idea was to examine people that play that role in linking you from one place to another. And I think the idea that maybe creativity could be hierarchical or linear like this ladder is an interesting idea. But maybe tonight we would like to propose that creativity is an idea is less linear and more to do with surrounding yourself with people, different talents and forces that converse to make a sort of a unique force. Got me thinking also about the idea that with evolution, we've all come from a certain point and we've developed as humans. And I thought it was interesting that we're quite symmetrical as people. We're kind of built 2 eyes, 2 hands, 2 legs. We've evolved like that throughout time. But I think a curious thing which I'd like to put to the panel as probably the first point is as how we're here in society, we seem to be unusually unable to focus on more than one thing at a time. And I think in terms of how people develop their careers, it's very unusual for people to have more than one main focus of their creativity. And so I think I'd like to basically put this sort of proposal, first of all, to Carsten and Nicolai. It's a question, Carsten, your work over the last 15 years has been involved in both art, visual art, and it's also been involved in the research into sound and music. You're known in the art world as an artist, but not as a musician, and you're known in the record industry, music world, as a performing artist, but no one really knows that much about your visual artwork. And I'd like to just ask you, why do you think it is that people cannot bring these two focuses together into one? What is maybe the block in this process?
It's probably how we learn about it, or how we perceive things, or how we structure things. Because, sorry.
Have some water.
Take the beer. Okay. Yeah, I think it's I guess I'm always saying I'm really against this boxing thing, like categorizing people, because or like putting them, okay, you're a dancer, you're a musician, you're this and this, and but for some reason, obviously, we need this kind of categories to orient ourselves in certain like let's say we go to a library and okay, a systematic is helpful, and these systematics or these kind of categories are in specific points really helpful, but in other points they're really blocking things from each other away. Like you could probably put a book into 3 different sections, for instance, but you have to make a decision where to put a book, and then the person who tried to find a book maybe looks in the other section and don't find a book anymore, right? I mean, this is a little bit the problem. Mm-hmm. So I rather think it's not a problem of us itself, of the individual. It's more a problem how we, let's say, try to organize things to the outside. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And how does the idea of a missing link to you come in and play a part in that? Is it a way of connecting that to the outside world, or
no? The missing link is a really interesting topic. What, like, basically, I think Darwin, it comes from Darwin. Maybe I hope I'm right. But anyway, it's basically you have the feeling things are connected, but you finally find this what you explained so beautifully, and I really think it's a moment where things, where basically it's a moment where you know, okay, we have to maybe change the systematic here. We have to group it differently. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and as well, it changed differently. Like that's kind of evolution, right? I mean, that's maybe you have to restructure the thing. You have to think in different ways, different perspective.
Yeah. Siobhan and Alexandra are coming from a dance angle. I mean, I think Carsten may agree that when he's creating visual art, it's quite a singular process. And people traditionally like to see it as a singular process, that the artist is making one piece of work. With being dancers, you're moving by yourself and you're writing pieces probably from a singular point of view. I know, Siobhan, you've written many pieces over the years, but when it comes to actually performing, it's usually something done in collaboration with other people, or you need more people to make that force happen. Do you see that it's a singular activity, or do you think it's reliant on collaboration? And in the same way that maybe I asked Carsten about the missing link, what for you is a missing link in dance? Maybe Siobhan, you want to break in with that?
While Carsten was talking, I was wondering whether our individual trainings start to separate us out. And I hate that word, training, because it seems to imply, it can imply a restriction. But if we move through an education system in which it seems the strongest part is to keep focused on the one area, and in dance it is how to work with your body without necessarily bringing in all the other impulses which are going to make you into an artist, because ideally any one of us want to be artists, and the medium that you choose is the discipline and the fascination that has impelled you maybe to work with that particular area. But ideally, in the end, you want to be an artist, regardless of the medium. So I consider myself an artist, and then a choreographer, and then earlier on a dance artist. As a choreographer and a dance artist, it was thrilling to know that the impact of the person next door to you was able to change you. And you might have had to have resisted against change for the worse, but in the main, you could embrace change for the better.
Okay.
So as a choreographer, to be dismantled by an intelligent dance artist that you were working with was something worth encompassing, worth dealing with.
Talking of dismantling, we just saw Alexandra almost dismantle herself in front of us. I want to ask you, Alexandra, this is the first time that you and Christian have performed this piece, and it's been in a format where you have danced singularly, Christian performing the music. Usually you're dancing with one other dancer in a duet, and maybe you can let us know maybe how this experience this evening differed when you're singular, just with music, as opposed to when you're dancing with, for example, with Damien Jalette. Is the dynamic different?
Yeah, the dynamic is different in terms of I didn't have a physical support that I have with Damien, but then this is just like the link between us is so big that it's not like I missed having another body with me, It's really like that. And then it's also about just finding the connections and let it go through you. When I do something like that, then some of the stuff I just let myself go in it. And I don't really plan, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that, especially also tonight because of the costume I was working with. The first part is more set with the white fur. The second part, I have to deal with the material, and the material is always moving. So I have to adapt with that, and then it's basically, getting stuff going, the energy is going through me, and I follow what happens.
Did you create that costume that you wore tonight? Was that you who created that?
Yes.
So you made your own problems with the costume that you had to solve in the dance?
But this is all about it. It's like life is like that always,
Yeah.
I wish I can get rid of the prisons I'm building up for myself.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very much like that.
Last night, Blix Bargold was talking about making rules. That you make your rules, you make your box, and then you decide when to break it. Is the costume part of your act, the idea of putting borders on yourself, whereby then you break them through the dance?
It's not borders. I think it's path. It's moving like this, right? You've seen it. So it's about how you take the path, and then sometimes you're stuck, and what do you do with the fact that you're stuck? And sometimes it's pulling you down, how you stand up again. Sometimes it's making you fly, how you follow the impulse of the flying.
Okay.
But is it different that visual art or some art aspects are made in privacy, and yet we know that we're going to stand up as performers in front of an audience? So you're not going to be on your own anyhow. You need to build your work, even if you don't, as last night Blix and Carsten spoke about, not necessarily thinking about the audience. In other words, the work had to come directly out of yourself. Our practice is that we know we are going to have an audience in front of us. So that has to become part, I would imagine it's part of that practice.
So when you're training or when you're rehearsing, when you're building a dance, you're always doing it with a view in mind that this is going to be exposed at some point. So does the audience then become the missing link for the piece? Does a piece only become alive at the point where it's publicly viewed? Or is a piece of dance if it's never seen?
Good question. Because you spend so much time in rehearsal and you are trying to make the work incredibly robust and test it in those moments. I can see that's exactly what you've done. You have tested what you have done. So that there is a moment in which it has to be absolute, and it's absolute whether an audience is in there or not. But when the audience comes in, the dimension changes completely. So you are, in some ways, once you've got used to the idea of performing, you know that the dimension is going to change. But the absoluteness will have had to have tried to have been there without an audience.
Christian, I want to bring you in and just ask about your work specifically with Mike Patton. Mike Patton, for people that you might not, people in the audience might not know, is an American singer who played in a band called Faith No More during the 90s. And when Alexandra was talking about putting borders around yourself, I think with Mike Patton's work, he played for years in a very successful rock band, where by the kind of confines of a record industry, it enabled him to perform in a very particular sort of way, which was cathartic and highly expressive. He then left the band and went on to pursue a solo career where he collaborated with a whole host of people. And you collaborated with him in the past years. And I just wanted to ask you about what it was like to work with Mike Patton and the way that you're working with someone that's collaboration has become a norm, where he's constantly redefining what he does through the people he plays with. And I just wanted to maybe hear about your experience with that.
Well, Mike contacted me like 3 or 4 years ago, I think, and he wanted me to perform with him at a festival in Canada, and I had no idea that he actually knew my music, but he did, and I must say, it's the most freestyle and improvised collaboration that I ever had. And he doesn't even want to make a sound check, you know. You go on stage and you just, do it, and it's always great. It's always great. He's amazing. He's like, I would say of course he's a great rock singer, like classic rock singer, but he's like one of the best jazz musicians I've ever met. And every show is different. He's always good for a surprise. It's just so much fun to play with him, you know.
Why do you think he was drawn towards your music? Why do you think he contacted you?
When I was talking with him about music, I actually realized that he's got such an open mind. He knows about so many different music styles, you know, and he likes so many different styles as well. So after a while of talking about music and always eating extremely well, because he's like a gourmet, you know, he's actually traveling with a Michelin, travel guide. It's
Good
amazing
food guide.
to tour with him. I realized that he likes so many different styles of music, and he knows everything also. It's like a library, you know.
So what did you think that you brought to his musical repertoire? I mean, when he moves on to collaborate with his next project, what have you given him?
I think he was interested in doing like a freestyle, free-form kind of noise, melancholic noise performance that doesn't include any beats.
Okay.
Because I don't think he has done that before in that way.
Okay. I think talking about collaboration, which is something that you and Carsten have been involved in, the idea of collaboration, I think, is kind of fundamental to Siobhan's idea of this centre, the idea that everyone is collaborating, new things come out of that. Both you and Carsten have both collaborated with Ryuichi Sakamoto. When people collaborate together, it's often the person who's most well-known or most famous that sort of takes precedence in a way, and that the people that they are sort of inviting kind of maybe their careers are benefited by that. I want to know, with Sakamoto, were you the missing link for him, or was he the missing link for you?
I don't know. It was just, I think every collaboration is actually making you try to find the missing link for something. Because everyone I've been collaborating with was kind of completing the picture for me, Those people that I work with can do something that I can't do, and I can learn something from them. Whoever it is, I don't know, Mike or Ryuichi, or, there's so many other people. I think, it's about learning.
Okay. Do you feel the same, Carsten, that when Sakamoto was approaching you to collaborate, that he was looking for something that he didn't have, that you could give to him musically, or?
Yeah, sure, both of us. Yeah, I think so. For me, it's even a little bit more extreme because I'm not used to classical notation systems. I have no idea about chords. Everything what like you try to collaborate, you have to find a language. So we had to make a new language, and that was interesting. And what I really, let's say, the best thing out of this collaboration, what I can take is he's that what I learned, that I would love to be that open, like when I'm, let's say, from 15 years from now, like that I'm really still curious about things, right? I mean, I think it's part of a collaboration curiosity. Like you are really, okay, what will happen when, and I think Richie is one of the most curious people I ever met. Huh? I mean, you know, I mean,
he's happy like a child when he discovers something new.
And he is like checking this and this, and he sends you this link, and he's really like, but very selective in a way, and it's focused, but it's. I think it's really something what I like. Maybe the most what I learned from this collaboration was stay curious, like stay open.
I mean, where did it bring your music, your collaboration with him? Because up to that point, you were purely dealing with electronic music, so to say, and suddenly you're now collaborating with someone who's a pianist. There was a sort of kind of slight shock tremor that went through the world of electronic music when, when piano was heard, and it was around the same time that quite a lot of people that have been proponents of electronic music since the mid to late 90s were readdressing this idea of how far could this go, and maybe we need to bring in fresh air or new sounds or new forms. Did you get a sort of response to that collaboration that was negative at any point?
I think I was kind of bored too, maybe. Yeah? Like I felt, okay, we're reaching a point here where we're kind of reflecting us. It becomes in a certain, I mean, it's a very small area, but it was very focused on this kind of small electronic scene. It was kind of, yeah, it's okay what you do. Like it's kind of, it became a pattern in a way, right? Yeah, and I'm really interested in breaking these patterns, actually. I'm more and more realizing that when the moment something feels like it's confirmed, I feel like, okay, now it's time. But I don't do this on purpose. I do this because I really need this myself. I really want this, actually, because I feel like something has to happen. Otherwise, I feel like I'm stuck. Okay. And maybe it's a fear that comes more from the art background, because in many biographies of artists, you see them starting as kids, making a drawing, and then 60 years later, you can see this really slow evolution. And I was always so scared to become one of these artists, because I thought, fucking hell, they wrote 60 years like on one topic. Is this okay? What they did by, and what else happened? Like, was there another action in this? Like, I still cannot understand it. I don't understand this concept of total dedication on one topic for your whole life.
It's very zen.
In a way, yes, but maybe, yeah, but...
Siobhan, you've danced since the end of the 60s. You've concentrated on dance for since that whole time. It's been a single focus for you. When Carsten says he couldn't imagine doing something for that long, how do you keep your inspirations fresh? And was your turning point in 2000 when you wanted to deliver dance into a new arena a way of giving yourself a change?
When Carsten was saying that, I thought, my problem is I imagine I might be a bit boring. So I introduce lots of other people because I think they might make me less boring. But I'm trying to get over that. No, it doesn't feel like a single thread. I find movement and dance utterly fascinating. So the thing I learn, I appreciate that I'm a quite different artist than I was in 1969. And if I wasn't, it would be really shocking and horrible. So why am I a different artist? And it's because of curiosity, digging deeper, and finding out that the limitation is me, not the subject. So the further I go into the subject, I'm going to get less limited, ideally, because I'm going to know more. And the further you get in, other people come in and start colliding with you and going, are you curious about this? Because I'm quite curious about this. And can we go off and do something? Having the building and moving into different places both had impact. So moving into a gallery space, I had to drop the veneer that we might have when we go into a theatre. So do you, as an audience, without even realising it, begin to have a slightly different attitude when you go into the theatre than when you go into the gallery? And I have a funny feeling we do. So we sort of wear the mental clothing that goes with the space. So I thought I would try and change that by moving into a different space. Having the building meant that as an artist I could also become a curator. So then as a curator artist, it's open house. You know, start inviting other people into this building so that they challenge it. They challenge the thinking, they challenge the practice. I was saying a bit earlier today, it's not only you and us at this moment, because for months, people who work in this building have been preparing for this. So they've been learning about different ways of working. They've been preparing for a different kind of performance. They've been thinking about a different kind of presentation. So all the way through the building, somebody has had an impact because of this, and you've had an impact because of it, and we have. So in the DNA structure idea, the missing link, we're sort of spreading out more links that reach to other connections, and in a much broader explosion, instead of it being a linear explosion, things start happening.
A very proactive way of doing that is by your current project called Score, where you've developed a dance performance which is simply to describe a circle, yep, or a series of circles where the dancers move in a circular pattern, and you can explain a bit more in detail. You've given this dance performance out to a range of different people that include an engineer, a poet, a writer, a composer,
a ceramicist,
a
playwright,
and a playwright,
and a filmmaker.
Is this your way of forcing curiosity on people, or just giving yourself more work? Is it something that you've consciously brought to light?
I think it began quite simply. I wondered if a small-ish dance object, I use the word object for the moment because it wasn't a performance, would be the engine that other people would respond to. So if I gave them this little engine, how would they react to it? So I rang all these people up or emailed them and said, do you mind me sending me, an engine? And then I got a bit nervous because I thought if I just sent the film, it was going to be a film, a top shot of a pattern, an activity, a densely packed activity. I got a bit nervous, so I invited them into rehearsal because I thought, well, if they don't like it, I'm stuck. So most of them came to the rehearsal and they wanted to respond to it. So now it's all in their hands and we'll see what happens. The poet has already sent her poem in. The playwright has half written a play.
So watch this space. We're going to start to wind up the talk because the time is ticking on. But what I wanted to maybe say in the last couple of minutes is we've talked about the missing link, the idea of there being people that can bridge these areas, but only in the artistic circle. What I want to finish by maybe exploring is the idea that corporations, companies, often use artists for their own means. And I want to maybe talk with Carsten and Alexandra because you've both recently, or in your careers, collaborated with companies. Carsten, you just did the visuals and the music for Calvin Klein's recent spring-summer show in New York. And Alexandra, you've taken an existing dance performance and used it in a music video for a band. I think I want to ask you first, in that music video, it's apparent to me that it's almost a replica of one of your existing pieces. There are movements within that dance where you're picked up by the dancer with his teeth. And dropped repeatedly. When this piece exists in the dance theatre, and when it exists as let's say a vehicle to promote a product, to sell a product, which at the end of the day, a band or band's song can be seen. Are there different variations when you're performing under these two contexts?
I don't think so, really. I don't think it comes to the mind that we're doing this for a product. It was, again, a collaboration, and then it just happened very fast, actually. You know, it was, I don't know, Damien got to know a week before that the people shooting the video wanted to work with him, with the editors, and then he called me, and it was my only day free. Of that specific week. We kept on touring and stuff. We just went there, and everything was beautiful. You know, the light, the film person, and the musicians themselves. You know, the band. They're really sweet people, and we just we got stuck together in this amazing venue. It was like a bar with a door, and we just did it, and we didn't ask ourselves why. Then Damien was choosing this specific material because of the meaning of the song, which was "You don't know love like you used to," and then it worked for him as an idea of, because it's a love duet that's a little bit distorted, you know. It's talking about death, about trying to carry your love back, trying to bring it back to life, and all that, and we just placed it in the space in between the band. And also when we started moving like that, I remember Tom, the singer, saying, it's what it is.
So the band started collaborating with you as well, or giving suggestions?
It all happened like that. You know, we started with the film, the cameraman Christopher Doyle, who is an amazing person. He's done lots of, you know, worked with fantastic people like Wong Kar-wai or Gus Van Sant, and basically we just had to do this, and it was looking great, you know.
So you didn't feel challenged or compromised at all? It was a transfer from one performance to another.
Yeah.
Did you feel equally as free in your collaboration when you were approached by Calvin Klein?
Actually, I had the same fear as you. Kind of, I can feel on the questions, but of course it's a tricky situation when a big company asks you to help to basically use your creative power, right? And but in the end, I was really I thought, okay, let's check it. That's what exactly was happening, and we went there. They invited me to come to talk, and we had a really interesting conversation happening. And it felt really like there's a small group of really creative people doing this quite extraordinary, extreme. And I thought as well quite artistic work doing this fashion collection, but it's actually not so known that Calvin Klein has this kind of high-brand fashion thing going. I didn't know that actually. Everybody knows it's like maybe the perfume and the underwear, and the t-shirts. But I deal with other people actually, and these people have been very, very open. Incredible open, actually. They left me everything. I could basically propose them whatever. And my first proposal, they laughed. They wanted to have it.
What was the first proposal?
No, I mean this was basically the concept for the show. I said, okay, let's change a little bit the idea that we have, because I needed to learn a lot about this whole thing. I've never been to a fashion show before in my life. So I said, okay, can you explain me a little bit what the whole thing, how it's happening? And the first thing I ever experienced was like, it's 9 minutes. Okay, 9 minutes. Okay, you do all this effort for 9 minutes? Yes, you do all this effort for 9 minutes. Yeah. I mean, It's okay. So then you're accumulating all these ideas, and I wrote a little text and sent them. Okay, I imagine this involve this and these elements. I not want to describe it now, but and I want to expand it a little bit in a way that let's make a CD. Let's make the 40 minutes before people come in already part of it. And they loved it and said, yeah, let's do it. And it was absolutely incredible, great work. We really enjoyed working with them, actually. Yeah, really fantastic. Yeah.
Christian, would you imagine that you and Mike Patton would work with Calvin Klein and do a fashion show?
Anytime.
If the money's right?
No problem.
I think maybe this is a point where we could throw the discussion out to the floor and just with questions that could be from any angle. It doesn't have to be regarding the theme that we've been talking about in the last 40 minutes. There's a microphone there are two microphones, here and here. And so if you want to pose a question, just shout out. And there's a mic there close by. Don't be scared.
I've got a question for Carsten. Well, if you're not going to ask, I might as well. Why did you accept this when? Because you didn't know me and you didn't know the building. Why did you say you'd do it? I'm now going to learn. I know you wanted to visit somebody in London, but that's not doing.
Yeah, but I took the opportunity.
Yes, okay.
No, it sounded. I mean, I'm interested in dance actually, and I get for some reason. I think all of us, our music gets really heavily used for dance, and we get regular offers to collaborate. But I never did really, and but I felt like okay, I want to check it.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm really happy that I did that actually.
Well, me too.
Good.
I was just thinking, actually, it was a great show, really enjoyed. I was thinking that you were saying about, you were talking about the evolution quite a lot, but then you're talking about non-linear processes. And I just thought it was really challenging what you were doing, but don't you think that the evolution part was kind of predictable in a way, because what I saw there was not like, it was totally non-evolution, what I saw. So I just saw a missing link between the evolution and the non-linear. That's a question.
Are you talking specifically about the dance performance?
Yeah, I'm talking about the performance.
I think when I was introducing the talk, I would think I was relating to Carsten's original idea of the missing link, and I'm not. We can throw it out to Alexandra and Christian. I don't understand that the dance is specifically
not planned
to do with that.
To have an evolution, actually.
It's not made. It was not. Nothing was made to illustrate the topic of missing link. It's basically only I'm throwing in a topic what it's used in the evolution theory, and you can interpret this word like in a very personal way. You can, or like link genres or meet people. Or I mean, this is so multi-layered. I mean, it was never meant to be like that. The artists have to work for this topic. This would be really too illustrative, let's say.
But maybe this is a sorry.
I just like the idea when you first told it to me that that there are two strands of people working in a parallel discipline, but one might, or you working in two disciplines, but one might force a different connection than the one previously perceived. So by two things being side by side, the missing link is the energy that drives between the two. So your music and your visual art the tension between those two things, or the discovery or the curiosity that one leads to the other, provides a link you wouldn't have necessarily perceived beforehand, and that an audience might have the chance to perceive that as well. So the missing link is those artists that drive their material into a place that we might not have perceived it being possible before, which allows then somebody else to evolve it.
I think a good example of that is probably, Christian, your use of a guitar, which is always seen as a classical instrument. You've pushed that through and made it a component or a vehicle to produce a whole range of sounds that I think none of us would imagine to come from a guitar. In what way, maybe, as Siobhan pointed that out, in what way was the guitar, at what point did you drive that material, if we call your guitar a material, to a point where it stopped functioning as to what it was and became something else?
Well, I mean, as everybody knows, the guitar is it's a rock and roll instrument, and it's full of cliches. And for me, there was a point where I just couldn't play it anymore. That's why I was just using a laptop for many years.
Yeah.
But then I was missing something, and I came back to it. And only, getting it out of my head, for a few years, made me able to try to play it again in a very simple way. And that's what I'm doing now. I play very simple. I've never ever played an acoustic guitar not mic'd up live before.
Tonight was the first time.
Yes. And it freaked me out. But I'm happy I did it. It was really a challenge. And for me, that night was really a big experiment.
In what way is Alexandra's dancing a link to you? What does the music alter
my
the
music
movement?
is in service of her dancing. I mean, this is really music made for something. It's not a solo show, and it's not me, in the foreground. It's her, and I have to support her. So that's the big thing here, the big challenge. And I just want to make her look good on stage. And I don't know. I mean, it's been, she's been introducing the world of dance to me, which I didn't know before, and I had stupid opinions about it and all that. And she's been like, since 10 years, she's shown me more and more and more, and I really, it's fascinating.
Why do you feel the music serves the dance? Why do you not feel they're on an equal level? Do you feel served, Alexandra?
No, it's on the equal level, of course, but it's a collaboration, and any collaboration is like 50-50 to me. It's like divided into two parts. And
I'm trying to serve the music.
If it's 50-50 though, then surely it doesn't serve because it's equal.
It's more in terms of just giving, allowing
it's
things
maybe
to
not
be
the
possible.
right. It's a good explanation.
Just
Serve
maybe
as.
it's a word.
I think in the collaboration, everybody steps back.
Yes, you have to.
Everybody, you have to step back. That's part of the
process.
The process, I think.
Any further questions?
Oh.
Quite a few.
It was interesting to hear that Siobhan and Carsten didn't know each other beforehand, because I just assumed this event came about because of contemporary dance has such a relationship with electronic music. You see so many contemporary dance pieces performed to contemporary music, electronic music. And I was wondering, with that relationship, how the musicians on the panel, maybe when they've seen their music used for a dance piece, how that might have changed the perception of their music. And then perhaps for the dancers, how they feel their dancing has changed, as perhaps electronic music has changed. If you see what I mean.
You're looking at me.
I think it was a question that was maybe in relation to what you had said earlier in the talk.
Well, in the last few years, I've tried not to work with music. And that was because I felt choreographically I wanted to understand more about structure. And if I wasn't careful, the music provided the structure, the emotion, and the air temperature, because music is so strong and so all-encompassing. And I even went to a physicist and said, neurobiologist, does the ear give the primitive brain information quicker than the eye? Because if it does, then that would to some extent explain why if you watch a piece of dance with music, most of the audience is satisfied. If you take the music away, the audience is feeling slightly unkempt, uncared for. Okay, so put that to one side. I was then trying to say, well, if my art is choreography, then surely that means I need to design both the structure, the form, the sensibility, the emotion, the ambience. So I tried to make work without music and then place the music occasionally on top. But that was just, this is an adventure that I had to go through. When I watched something tonight with these two wonderful artists, I was as happy as anything to see the both of them intermingle at such a physical and tactile. I mean, the music felt tactile, and the movement felt as if it could have sprung from music. So my argument, gets wiped out immediately. It's just that I had to do that for my own living practice.
Yes, I was prompted to formulate these thoughts in relation to some of these last points and questions, whether the music was serving the dance or not. I wanted to go back to my own perception of the extraordinary performance, actually, that you gave, both of you. It seemed to me that it was quite an extraordinary performance, and also it fell into three parts, so that the elemental work of the first and last parts framed a social, something about the social, it seemed to me, in the middle section. In the middle section, when you were playing live and you were lying on the floor having sung and presented an image of a woman veiled. And the music really seemed to create, the electronic music seemed to create this extremity and an elemental movement and quality to the first and last parts. In a sense, I'm wondering, Sue, if what you're doing is allowing language to be presented, vocabulary. So those three parts of your performance tonight seem to me simply vocabulary and language that was being presented to us, which we can go away with and have. And I don't necessarily feel I need to understand it, but I've heard it. And in a sense, what I think, Sue, you're commenting on is not that you, in your collaborations, you don't seem to be trying to find things you need from other people, as some of you have discussed, but rather this question of space and allowing, creating a new space in which different vocabularies might come together. And we are allowed to experience those and hear them and simply go away, having heard them. If artistic process is one of your main interests, we all want to be artists, I wonder how far along the process you think you are in creating these conversations, in what these vocabularies and these languages are offering. Is that an intelligible question? I mean, we've had a wonderful example of vocabulary and language being presented tonight. And then on another level, you are talking about space where different disciplines come together. This is that space. It's quite a small audience that hears it so far, I think. It'll continue, it'll grow. These are conversations. How far along, what do you think might happen out of these?
Out of parallel voices, or out of a discipline of working with a multiple set of people?
Out of the fact that new conversations are happening on each of these occasions, whether it's in discussion or whether it's in the work itself.
I wouldn't know how far down the process I am, because it feels there's a lot further to go and a finite amount of life. So it's a quite hard question to answer. I don't know that I don't completely understand. I wish I understood what you were saying, Helena, because I know it's an interesting question, but I'm not quite there with you. Try one more go.
Thank you. Actually, I'm sorry, I've been a bit complicated, but basically, I mean, I come from visual art, and I've been fascinated over the last 5 years or so to be curating a crossover myself between dance and visual art, whether it's dance on film or whether it's coming here last year, Parallel Voices. I'm not sure that we all necessarily understand.
Why?
Understand what we see or hear, but it's marvellous. You know, it's very thought-provoking. It's a great, wonderful experience for everyone, all the contributors. I mean, honestly, I think it was an astonishing performance tonight, and I just have my own sense of the pattern of it. And that seems to me to be language. I feel that my nerve endings in terms of language have been.
If it helps, something that we had a brief chat, and I'll be very quick. If you align various thoughts together, you know, an individual, an artist, has to some extent at any one point a set of pure thinking in a way. Even if it's brief, it's a pure thinking. If you align that right next door to somebody else who's, as you said, edgy, sharp at the edges, you align those two people together, the gap in between them, some kind of energy drive happens. And as you either share information or visually you are by the side of each other, or somebody else comes in and starts to negotiate what you're trying to handle, in those spaces when you might not originally have a language, in those spaces something starts to happen. And if what happens has enough energy, then those people begin to find a language and to work out whether that's a missing link that they can go and use somewhere else. So my fascination is place these energies side by side as close as possible when you can, and the substance between them begins to start producing. And conversations start making things happen, or plant ideas, or plant different parameters or of thinking. So I can't bear being boxed up. I just can't bear my art form being boxed up in the way that it's been. It's perceived in a way sometimes which sends me crazy. So I'm sorry, you're just getting the full passion there. I just can't stand it. So I get as many artists that come in here and dismantle our thinking and get us to keep that idea of any art form right now. We are in an extraordinary period of time right now. We really are. Every single one of us is existing in a period of time of enormous change and volatility. Well, artists have the right to pitch in with that, and so do you. So energize yourselves and do it any which way you can. Sorry.
Thank you. I think we have time for a couple more questions. Yes.
I just wanted to know about sort of the process of how you went about creating that. In terms of who sort of went first, like was the dance choreographed before the music was composed, or was it at the same time, or the other way around?
It was like a work in progress, and
at the same time. At the same time.
It happened at the same time. We worked together in the room actually to make that.
And you tried different things.
They showed me something. I tried out a few things and corrected a few things. They did change things again. So it was really like a collaboration, work in progress in one room. Yeah. So it happened at the same time.
And also for the other part, the second part, it also happened at the same time.
The second part we just did in Vienna like a few weeks ago, and we were renting a small dance studio to create that, and we were just trying out things seeing if it works or not.
Sorry, how long was it? How long did it take to make that, to have everything finished?
Both of the parts were quite fast. I think the first part with the white fur, we worked
no,
like...
No, but on that track, I worked quite...
Yeah, you worked... Yeah, because you worked after.
Many studio hours.
But how much time did we work together in studio? 2 weeks?
Yeah, maybe.
2 weeks, something like that. And then the other part, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days, something like that.
6 days.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is not a question. It's just I would like to underline the last intervention of Siobhan Davis with the thought that I was having when you started our conversation. It's a concept from mathematics that I think that more and more it's been applied to different areas of knowledge, and art is maybe the area of knowledge and creation that can catch it in a more fertile way, if we can create these spaces of breathing between us. And I just wanted to share it with everyone. It's maybe not a question, it's a sharing. It's a concept of trees as thinking in a categorization, like if you have this main branch, like branches, and the guy is called Christopher Alexander, and he has this concept like thoughts like trees, that branches of everything organized in branches, and then semi-reticulae, that is like everybody organized in layers, and you find between these layers spaces to find these missing links to create spaces to breathe. And this has been applied to urbanism, because I'm a dancer, but I studied urbanism for 2 years, so it's and it's been applied also to social sciences. And I feel that this is a concept that it's very well. Sorry, it's not because of the authority of the guy. I hate the idea of authority, like, oh, the guy, Christopher Alexander and things. But I really feel that more and more in various areas, and especially in art, there is a big breathing, like we are breathing out to breathe in this kind of together, like we are here in this room, everybody breathing the same air, and being inspired, but all the connections, and something new will happen. So I really like just to thank Siobhan Davis and the space and everybody for this moment. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it's something that's come out of a talk tonight is the idea that a missing link doesn't necessarily lead to something else. It might lead to a space that gives energy for language to develop. And I think as your workshops each year progress, maybe I think more space gets charged and more different formations develop over time. And I'd be interested to see in 5 years where we're at. If there are no more questions, I think we'll close down the discussion. I would like to thank again our guests tonight, and also you as the audience. And unless Siobhan would like to...
I just want to thank Carsten absolutely as thoroughly as I can do, because it's been a fantastic 3 days for us, and I'm thrilled to bits.
I have to thank you too.
And also, again, to my team and Alison very particularly, who's been completely terrific. And thank you very much for coming, and please come again.
Thank you very much.